Hello, Deutsche Auto Parts viewers and subscribers, and welcome to the first installation of a brand new series, First Fridays with Faye. So what you just saw was a little mini movie that I made to introduce you to Gaia, my 1980 Volkswagen Rabbit that I've been daily driving for over a decade now. And y'all, this car changed my life. I can't even tell you, although I'm gonna try to. And that's what this series is gonna be about, actually. It's gonna be about the amazing Volkswagens that have really impacted our lives, changed our lives, turned us into better people, and then also interviews with the women who own those Volkswagens. So yeah, without further ado, here goes. So when I first bought the car, she obviously looked nothing like this. So let me tell you about that. When I first got the car, she had the stock engine, which was a 1.5 liter diesel engine.
Oh man, that sounds good.
Which, if any of y'all know about the older diesels, the 1.5, not the 1.6, the 1.5 was a total lemon. I saw this car on the side of the road behind a barn in Washington State, and I absolutely, it was like love at first sight. I needed to have the car. Granted, I was in the middle of a road trip. I was 3,000 miles away from home. I had never held a wrench in my life. And I had an awesome car at the time already. And obviously I couldn't bring both of the cars home. So I sold my perfectly good, perfect running 96 GTI VR6. It had all the little issues had already been worked out on it. The timing chain guides had been replaced. The crack pipe had been replaced. It literally had nothing wrong with it. And here I was,
stupid me. And I saw this car and it was diesel and I was like, oh my God, I have to have it.
Here's the new one. This is Gaia, 1980 Volkswagen Diesel Rabbit. There she is. Look at her. She's cute. And
so I bought it, and over the course of that summer, in the middle of my road trip, I converted it to run on waste vegetable oil. There was like this big alternative fuels club that I joined in Portland, and like there was all sorts of alternative fuels being used, and like with the help of a bunch of other people, because I was not a mechanic at the time, I didn't know anything at the time, with the help of a bunch of other people, I made this weird mutant waste vegetable oil kit. I had a tank in the back, I had a tank up front, I had like a heated fuel filter set up and jacketed fuel lines and all. I thought I was so freaking awesome. Yeah, then time came to return home on my road trip, and literally, like, I appreciate the car so much. Literally, like, the engine, I mean, there was like a few hiccups, but I drove the car home 3,000 miles, like, finishing my road trip over like the period of like 3 or 4 months, and it was not until like right at my mother's doorstep that all of a sudden she just started like pluming white smoke out the back. And I was like, okay, something's wrong, and it's not to do with the waste vegetable oil system this time, unfortunately. So for those of you who have watched my previous videos, you know that, or I mean, obviously not on this channel, but on my personal channel, you know that this car is really what turned me into a mechanic. I bought my first set of tools because of this car. When the engine blew up, I couldn't afford to buy a new one or have someone else rebuild it or put it in. So I actually took myself to the Sears Father's Day tool sale and bought myself my first set of tools. And under the guidance of an amazing mentor of mine, I rebuilt the diesel engine, the 1.5 liter. And you might say, wow, that's like so cool for a newbie, like good for you, Faye. Yeah, it lasted like a couple years. No, it lasted like not even a year, like several months. And then it blew up again. And then I rebuilt it again, and then it blew up again. So third time's a charm. I'm like, I'm determined to daily drive this car until the day that I die. So I've got to put something in there that is reliable, that's cheap, that's fuel efficient, and that's gonna last forever. So I was racking my brain. I really wanted to get like a 1.9 liter TDI, so I was like, that'd be so sweet. But they were really spendy. And I found this engine for $200. And I remember like way back to maybe like 2009 or 2010, when I had first met my mentor at a shop called Yarrow Sport, and Jesse was basically trying to kill this Volkswagen Golf. They were like, what can we do to make this engine stop running? They drained all the oil out, they drained all the coolant out, and the thing kept on running. Finally, I think they ended up like shoving, I don't know, maybe like a water hose down into the intake, and I think hydro locked it that way, and like finally it died, but like it was a very unnatural way that like it died, like, and it took a lot of effort. So I was like, you know what? That's what I need. That's perfect. Ta-da! The rest is history. Also, I should say, this car has broken a lot, y'all. A lot. And not just back when I first bought it and was like working through the issues. It still actually breaks a lot now. But back in the day, I sort of used it as a learning experience. I never actually got to the point where I was like, I need to sell the car. A couple times I did actually buy a secondary car, like a beater car that I didn't really care about, that I would drive in between. Most of the time though, I just had my bicycle because I've always sort of lived in cities that wouldn't work for me now in the middle of nowhere, Texas. But yeah, Recently, though, a couple things have broken that were like not necessarily like learning experiences for me because I'm like, okay, I've done this a million times. I volunteered my entire weekend, like doing charity work, like fixing people's cars for free in the community. And as I was driving home, my beloved trusty steed, Gaia, decided, actually, it wasn't her fault. Like, for example, recently I had the axle shaft shear off the side of my transmission, somehow like sending my axle into the side of my transmission, and like some metal from like some of the clips actually just like gouged like a big hole in the side of my transmission. And I was like, God damn it. Then I had to pull my transmission out. Oh God, the cicadas. Okay, they stopped. Now we've got this crow though, so I don't know what's worse. But anyway, when my transmission had that little issue, then I mean, obviously there's always something that I can learn from the situation. But in that case, like I've yanked my transmission out so many times. When I first got the car, of course, like, you know, this was my first car that I ever did anything to. So keep in mind, like, when I pulled my transmission out and I like saw what the transmission looked like with the push rod and everything, I thought that's how all transmissions were. So even up to the point when I worked at the Toyota dealership, I'd still never pulled out another transmission before in my life. So my first clutch job on like a Toyota Corolla, I was like, what is this? But anyway, I didn't realize that there was a seal for the push rod. I knew there was an input shaft seal, but I didn't understand, like, the seal wasn't like a bright color or like even black. It was like a metal sort of seal. And it was leaking and I didn't know that. So I literally had to pull the transmission out 3 times to redo my clutch. So I'm very familiar with doing this clutch job and pulling out my transmission. That being said, the last time I actually used it as like a learning opportunity for other people. So I actually did like a 4 or 5 or 6 part because I have a Volkswagen Mutant. So in that case, we might halfway through this generation. Mark 1, 210mm clutch disc. Well, first of all, I recommend it. It's like the best purchase I ever did that, but it also gives you a bunch of information. Jetta, Cabriolet, not the thought. I think 6-part actually O2O transmission fun series where I just like did a bunch of tutorials about my transmission. So I guess there's always like an opportunity to like make lemonade out of your lemon. and every opportunity, like every time something breaks is a chance for me to upgrade, make something better. Yeah, and just like make my process faster, or just, I don't know, make her or myself better in some way. So yeah, that's my car and that's my story. Yeah, I can't even tell you guys what a huge part of my life this car has been. Over the past 11 years as a daily driver and project, this car has taught me so much about myself and the world, and also mechanics. For those of you who have seen my channel before and who have watched any of my videos, you know, a lot of times I mention this car and give this car credit for actually turning me into a mechanic at all. I could have easily abandoned my project at any step of the way and sold it for probably decent money because they're a little rare, right? Especially where I was living in New England. But I didn't want to do that. I felt like I owed it to myself and owed it to the car to keep on trying, you know, basically until, you know, she bankrupted me or I just, you know, just got so distraught that I couldn't handle the project anymore. But with this car, I've had all of my firsts. My first engine swap, of course, my first engine build, my first timing belt, my first clutch job, my first transmission swap, but also the little stuff too, right? My first air filter replacement,
my first valve cover gasket reseal, my first light bulb replacement. And so this car has meaning to me that nothing else can really replace. So I hope this has been an inspiring video for you to watch. Because hey, starting out as a newbie, my car now has over 400,000 miles on it, and I've taken 3 cross-country road trips and a couple up and down. Up and down road trip? This is cross. That's for, I don't know. I've taken a lot of trips in this car, and I only had that, well, knock on wood, I only had that one really major fail, and that sort of catapulted me away from my background in psychology into really learning that in life, I mean, life is short. We have to pursue our passions and do what feels right for us, regardless of how other people are gonna judge us or what other people think is right for us. A lot of people along my journey said that I should get rid of the car. My dad was one of them. Stop putting money into that old car, you're dumb. I mean, yeah, like some people would definitely look at that and be like, you are dumb. You know, I haven't calculated how much money I spent on the car or how much time I've spent on the car. But, you know, I also never went to automotive school. I'm self-taught. And, you know, and I had mentors and I had internships too. But, you know, I could have spent the money on school. Instead, I invested it into something that I still love. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'm really excited about making more, so stay tuned. And also, if you know of an awesome lady with a sweet Volkswagen project that you'd like me to cover in this series, put her in touch with me and let me know. I have the next few months already lined up, but obviously the more awesome ladies that I meet that I can ask questions of and I can film, then the longer this series will go on. So give this video a thumbs up to encourage me to keep on making these. And yeah, I welcome your feedback to let me know what else you would have loved to learn about my car or my story or what you'd like to see in the next video. So yeah, thanks y'all, and thanks to Paul for welcoming me onto the Deutsche Auto Parts channel. It's been real. Until next month. Hey YouTube, it's Faye, and for today's video, I happen to find myself in the lovely city of Portland, Oregon, and behind me there is an awesome lady-driven car show going on. Not sure if you happen to notice, but there is a pretty sweet Volkswagen Vanagon Westie behind me, and so of course I had to go up and talk to the owner. Turns out she's owned the van for over 13 years, and she's a little bit of a Volkswagen enthusiast. She also has a 1973 Volkswagen Beetle project at home that she has just started tinkering on. Not only that, she's also going to use it as part of a homeschooling curriculum tool, which I'm super stoked to learn more about. So let's go talk to her.